In the world of mortgages, one decision that can greatly affect your overall cost is whether or not to pay points upfront to secure a lower interest rate. In this video, we will break down what mortgage points are, how they work, and whether it makes sense for you to pay them in 2026. We will look at 3 examples to help you understand how to calculate the break-even point and decide whether paying points is worth it for your situation. First, let's define what mortgage points are. A mortgage point, also known as a discount point, is essentially a fee you pay upfront to reduce the interest rate on your loan. Each point typically costs 1% of the loan amount and reduces your interest rate by a certain amount, usually by 0.25%. Paying points can save you money over the life of the loan by lowering your monthly payments. However, the upfront cost can be substantial, and it may take several years to recoup that cost through the savings on interest payments. Now let's dive into our first example. In this scenario, you have a $300,000 mortgage, and the lender offers you 2 options. One is to pay 2 mortgage points upfront at a cost of $6,000 to reduce your interest rate from 5% to 4.5%. The other option is to skip the points and take a higher rate of 5.25%. The question is, which option is better for you? To calculate the break-even point, we need to compare the monthly payment for each option. The loan amount is the same in both cases, so we can focus on the interest rate and the loan term. For the first option with the 4.5% rate, your monthly payment will be lower than if you take the higher rate of 5.25%. The difference in monthly payments is $100, and the cost to buy the points was $6,000. So to find the break-even point, we divide the cost of the points by the monthly savings of $100. This gives us a break-even point of 60 months or 5 years. In this case, if you plan to stay in your home for at least 5 years, it would make sense to pay the points upfront and secure the lower interest rate. Moving on to our second example, let's say the loan amount is $200,000. This time, the lender offers you 2 options again. One is to pay 1 mortgage point at a cost of $2,000 to reduce the interest rate from 4.75% to 4.25%, or you can take a higher rate of 5% without paying points. In this scenario, your monthly payment with the lower rate of 4.25% will be approximately $900 less than if you took the higher rate of 5%. The difference in monthly payments is significant, and the cost to buy the point is $2,000. So if we divide the cost of the point by the monthly savings, we get a break-even point of about 22 months, just under 2 years. In this case, if you plan to stay in the home for at least 2 years, paying the point makes sense because the savings will exceed the upfront cost within that time. Finally, let's look at a fair example. In this case, your mortgage is $500,000, and the lender offers you 2 options. The first option is to pay 3 mortgage points at a cost of $15,000 to reduce the interest rate from 6% to 5.5%, or you can take a higher rate of 6.25% without paying any points. In this case, the difference in monthly payments between the 2 options is about $150, so the cost to buy the points is $15,000, and the monthly savings is $150. Dividing the cost of the points by the savings gives us a break-even point of 100 months, or just over 8 years. If you plan to stay in the home for longer than 8 years, paying the points would be the better option because you will have saved more money than the upfront cost of the points. These 3 examples show how the break-even point works and how it varies depending on your loan amount, interest rate, and how long you plan to stay in the home. It's important to consider all factors before making a decision about whether to pay points or take a higher rate. Some of the factors you should consider include how long you plan to stay in the home, your ability to afford the upfront cost of the points, and your overall financial goals. If you plan to stay in the home for a long time and you can afford the upfront cost, paying points may be a good option. However, if you plan to move in a few years, or if you can't afford the upfront cost, you may be better off taking the higher rate and saving the money for other uses. In conclusion, the decision to pay mortgage points or take a higher rate depends on your specific situation. By understanding how mortgage points and calculating the break-even point in different scenarios, you can make an informed decision that will save you money in the long run. Remember, it's not always about the lowest interest rate. Sometimes it makes more sense to pay a higher rate and save the upfront cost for other financial goals. Now let's look at our first example. Imagine you are taking out a $400,000 mortgage loan. The lender gives you two options. The first option is to pay 2 points, which would cost you $8,000 upfront in exchange for a reduced interest rate of 4.5%. The second option is to take a higher interest rate of 5% without paying any points at all. The question is, which option is more beneficial for you? To find the break-even point, we need to calculate the difference in monthly payments between the two options. With the 4.5% rate, your monthly payment will be about $1,500 lower than the payment with the 5% rate. Difference in monthly payments is $1,500 and the cost to buy the points is $8,000. So to calculate the break-even point, we divide the upfront cost of the points by the monthly savings of $1,500. This gives us a break-even point of about 5.3 months, less than half a year. This means if you plan to stay in your home for more than 5 months, paying the points will be a better financial decision, as you will save more than the upfront cost within that time frame. Let's now move on to a second example. In this case, you have a $250,000 mortgage loan, and the lender offers two choices. The first is to pay 1 point costing $2,500 upfront to reduce the interest rate from 4.25% to 3.75%, or you could choose a higher rate of 4.5% without paying any points. In this scenario, the monthly payment with the lower rate will be approximately $100 less than the payment with the higher rate. With the upfront cost of $2,500 and monthly savings of $100,